Hello. Today I'm talking with Tsvetelina Plummer. We talked about working internationally, discovering a job she didn't even know existed, and how a hobby gives her energy. I'm Etymologicon from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello everyone, and hello with me. I have Tsvetelina. Is that how I should pronounce your name?
Yes, that's right. That's
Wow.
usually
Okay.
not easy.
Yeah, that's why I try to ask it on camera because I think it's important that we try to do that. And before, in the very beginning, I did it sometimes off camera, but then people didn't always know that it's yes, it's and it might actually be good that people realize, hey, it's not so easy. Now, I want to
Yeah,
show before we start. I want to show a little bit on where I am. So I am now in Belgium, in Ghent. And we're going to travel. I think you're in Berlin, if I'm correct, where
that's
there's
right.
actually quite a lot of other agilists that I've already been talking to. And on my side, and while I'm going to try to bring you back fully on camera, on my side, it's 26 minutes after 5. What's the time on your side?
It's the same. It's the same. We're in
It's
the
the
same time.
same.
Yeah,
Yes, for the people who are not from Europe, Berlin or Germany and Belgium are in the same time zone. So that is more or less the same. Or for most of Europe, I would say it's the same thing. And for the people that don't know you, could you, before we go into the questions, introduce yourself a little bit? What should people know about you?
yes. Thank you. My name is Tsvetelina, and I am an agile coach. So I've been born and raised in Bulgaria, in Sofia. And when I was 19, I traveled to Berlin to study. I studied computer science at the technical university there, and had pretty interesting time during the studying. Then I spent some time in university, did some teaching there, and later on decided that I wanted to go into some sort of a more practical field, and
Hmm.
did some project management, which quickly turned into like agile coaching. And it introduced me really quickly to Scrum, to agile ways of working, etc. So that's where I started digging in and doing that. So spent some years in Germany doing that, and I went back to Sofia for like 5 years, and joined a company called GfK, which is a German company again, and worked there for like, I don't know, now almost 5 years. And recently they have moved me back to Germany, in Berlin, where I'm right now. So it's been a journey, like going over like Sofia, Germany. So very
That's
weird.
really interesting. So working for a German company, but still, yeah, okay, that's interesting. How would I say it? Yeah, it's interesting journey. That's really nice to see.
Everything is so international. It's really kind of normal, becoming a normal thing, right?
Exactly. I think that is indeed the way to say it. That it's becoming normal in a way that we're working remotely, but still internationally, and then maybe moving because sometimes it's interesting to keep to work in personal. So yeah. But thanks for that introduction. Let's jump to that very first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
Oh yeah, that's a tricky one, I think. Because for me it was weird because of the part of that has influenced you, and I
Hmm.
think there is like a lot of things that do that. But in the end, like in terms of what I'm doing right now, I was trying to think back, like when I started in university. I think this is something like a little bit less known in German universities. It's actually the education there is pretty much free in many universities in Germany, and
Hmm.
you're even like you're not pressured for money or anything, but it's actually very nice to go and have a university job. So this was also true
Mm.
for me. And when I was in university, pretty quickly I wanted to have like a tutoring job, and I wanted to like have a like there's this weirdness here that you can have like half jobs for a student, and now I only had like a half tutoring job, and I wanted another half to make it a full. And I discovered a job that was something that I had no idea that it was actually a job, and it was called like a consulting student. So I met a girl when I was like in third semester, and she was doing this job. So that's why I knew about this job. And then when I saw later that there was like an opening, I was like, oh, it's something I could do. And then I applied. And why I found this to be like, it wasn't like the typical job you do as a student. There was like very little people that knew about this. And but it was cool because at that time when I was starting to study in Germany, I was in this first year that transferred into a bachelor's degree. So up until then, universities in Germany, most of them had this called diploma degree. And then they transferred through Bologna process to this bachelor master system. And that was super exciting and interesting because I was in like the first year, and there was like a bunch of students who didn't know what to do because their old system was gone, and now there was a new system that was not the same. Everything was being transformed, but there was like a big chaos and nobody had any idea about like what to do in so many simple cases. Like there was so much complexity about it that even the simplest stuff was hard. So
Okay.
this was a cool job to be in, and it kind of influenced where I went because it was a transformation, a
And when
really
you say you knew that girl that was doing that kind of thing, did you understand that she was doing before you applied, or how did that go? Because it you kind of jumped rather quickly. So I knew this girl that was doing that. I'm doing that. So how did that thought
yeah.
process go? If you want to share.
So we were just in the same working group at university, and we were exchanging, like we became friends, and we were exchanging what she was doing, and she showed me around. So it was these student consulting students were basically doing those onboarding
Hmm.
tasks. They were helping students come to terms with what are we doing, what are we allowed to do. Like when you enter school in Germany, like Germany is so famous for like the bureaucracy. Even
Oh
at
yeah.
university you get like, I don't know,
Okay.
at least 5 6 different documents like that maybe, and they're all written in this very difficult to understand German. So all these rules are
And
very
especially if
hard.
you're not originally German, I can imagine that bureaucracy is even harder to understand. Because
Yeah, yeah,
did you
you,
know any German when you moved to Germany, or how did, yeah.
yes, yes. So I spoke German in school. I learned it in school, but it took me about a year to really learn it proper when I came to Berlin.
Okay,
So I
because it
did
was so
know
much hard.
the language.
Okay.
Yeah, but the German, like the German universities have lots of students from abroad, and
Mhm.
that becomes really hard. So back then I think we had some translations, but it was still too hard because all of these German words also are very hard to interpret.
Yeah, I
Yes.
can definitely imagine. Well, yeah, my German, I have lots of German friends, but unfortunately my German is really bad. The I had 4 years of German in school. Well, 3 years, and I had to do 1 year over because of German, so that already says
Yeah.
something. Um, and, I went I I I don't know, for my 30th birthday or something like that, I went with my partner to, yeah, some kind of city in Germany, so she gave me a weekend for us together, and we found a city, or it's probably a smaller thing, where literally nobody spoke English, so it was all German. And I tried to choose
Mhm.
German, and they told me like I don't understand Dutch, and I was like, okay, that's my level of German. So I stopped trying after that because I said, okay, it's yeah, it doesn't work for me.
Oh,
Yeah, but yeah, although I do
it,
love like Berlin, I do love the city. But
yeah.
yeah, if I can use English, let's put it like that.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah,
that easy.
German is, I don't know, it's not an easy language, and I used to hate it in school. Like I really hated it. I was hiding myself in like the kitchen and learning some English instead. Like it was so funny. My parents were making fun of me all the time.
And now here you are living in Berlin. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. So I can definitely see how that influenced you
Mm.
in many different ways. So let's move to that second question. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, do you have any idea what would have become of you?
Hmm. Well, I don't know for sure. I used to have lots of interests when I was growing up. One thing that was probably gonna happen is like I used to do a lot of photography, or I still do that,
Mm,
but just for a hobby. And I had like a time when I traveled around and did a lot of that, and also almost went into becoming like a photographer in Tanzania, in Africa,
mm,
for like there was a part of my life where I spent a couple of months there, and but then we decided to move back. But it was interesting because there it was really that I was able to do a lot with little, and
mm,
there was a lot of people who were also interested, and I had like a small community of people who were interested to learn photography around me, which was really nice. And I loved that feeling of building up something together with others and trying to teach what how to do this stuff, and enabling others as well, like giving them the tools, giving them like, I don't know, some equipment and tips on how to do stuff, and like seeing how they actually pick that up easy. And it was really nice and fun, to be honest, but in the end I didn't end up doing that. But it's still like a big hobby for me. I think I could have done that at some point.
do you regret that you didn't do it, or is it something like I like that it's still a hobby now, or how is that for you?
I don't know. I don't think I regret it. So I think there is quite a lot going on when you want to build a business like that.
Hmm.
It's not always super easy, and it's like, even though in the beginning it's super exciting and could be very um, very, I don't know, in a way like I don't know, addictive, in a sense that you love doing it and you're pushing and pushing. It can also be super exhaustive. And when I think back, like why I didn't do it is because also it was hard to plan my other activities, like my the whole of the rest of my life, like having a family, having like other things that I wanted to do as well, which was tricky because being a photographer means like, or at least this type of photography means that you are away on weekends, you are away long times and periods, and this is hard to plan in advance, especially when you try to build something up. So the model was, I don't know, it was something that I didn't want to do so much back then, even though it was energizing and super fun. I thought that on the long run, it might not be best. So I kept it a hobby.
It's but which is also nice. I mean, it's also good that we are some things, and again, it's rather hard to predict what a life could have been, and yeah, regretting is doesn't always help. So that is also good thing to see that. Okay, I keep doing it. It's a hobby, and that's about it.
Mm. And
That's
it
really nice.
gives me energy every time I do it now. And I feel
Hmm.
like this is a positive thing, because if I had turned this into a job, maybe it wouldn't have been the same. And now it really always gives me energy. It's the one thing I can go to and say, hey, I'm gonna do this for like 2 hours, and I know after that I'm like super energized, which is cool.
Yeah, I think that that's having something that gives us energy is always cool, and it's nice that if your job can do that, but if it doesn't have to be that, then it's nice to do other things outside. Okay, let's move to that next question. Um, what do you consider your biggest challenge right now, and or yeah, the biggest challenge that you want to talk about, and why is that a good thing for you?
Hmm. Yeah, that's also not an easy question. Like I really liked your question because they're all like, okay, what is it really? They're all not easy,
Hmm.
and I think that one was one that I struggled a lot, like defining exactly what it is because there is actually too many. So it's always
Mm.
like challenges around. And right now in work, there is so much to do. There is a lot going on in the same time. Like it's work, it's private life, it's everything going. I don't know. I'm talking to many people, and we have like this common thing that we all have so many things in our heads, and it's getting unmanageable to focus. Like it's getting so hard to really focus on something and be intentional because we're kind of all into this reactional mode of things are coming our way, and then we need to deal with that, and it's becoming more and more things, and it's really becoming less and less easy to do that, especially with all the technology and social media, all kinds of articles happening that you want to keep up reading or whatever. So I stopped reading news, for example, for quite some time, and that has helped me a lot, to be honest. I read only occasionally to keep track. But I think one of the biggest is like what to do kind of next because
Hmm.
of how the um like I think I've reached the point when I'm kind of like, okay, I know that I have something interesting that I've been working on for like now many years. It is probably interesting to build up into um something more. But how do I do that? It's like one of those biggest things, like how do I make what I've been doing into a concept that I can evolve, I can move forward doing what I love doing. And that's kind of like my biggest challenge. How do I channel what I've been doing so far into something that I can continue doing beyond? Because right now I feel like it's a little bit difficult with this, with the space in agile coaching. It's going through this kind of transformation where people are asking themselves, okay, where are we going? Is what's the future for us in agile coaching? Like what are we going to be doing next? And the same goes, I guess, for me, because I've found like some niche for myself and I want to build something out of it, which I can say this is something that I can have purpose. I think that's kind of challenging. um
Hmm. And why is that a good thing for you? That second part of that question. Is there something about that challenge that is good for you?
I think that's what's good for me, is that it's kind of making me, forcing me think about things in an intentional way instead of being reactive. Like it's giving me a little bit of a way to prioritize and set goals for myself. So when I know, okay, there is something that I want to do, or I have the opportunity to do, it's like for me, okay, does that bring me forward? Does it help me shape what I want to be doing next? Or is it something that will currently distract me and I need to postpone for another time? Even though I would really love to do that, maybe it's something that right now is not being helpful and I really need to focus on something else. So it's helping me to kind of focus myself and choose intentionally what to do, because sometimes there's like so many things that you can do.
Yeah, I think we in Agile we say we want to limit the work in progress, and I think I think I have the feeling we can limit everything. I think we want to limit the learnings in progress. We want to limit the number of clients in progress, the number of teams we're working with, whatever kind of things. As the moment you start working on with too many different things, or yeah, it's too much things that are open in my mind for whatever reason, that's never a good idea. And like you say, a focus can really help, even if there might be a desire for something else. Okay, if your mind needs to focus on finishing something else, that might not be a good thing. And then indeed, it's good that there are things that help you focus. And at the same time, I recognize the desire to learn, or the desire to, yeah, okay, I feel stuck, or what
Mm,
will things be next. So I really
yeah,
like that kind of challenge.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, well, one of the last question is like, okay, is there anything I should ask you? And what I've seen, and when I originally asked that question in the book form or in the blog post form, then it went all over the place. And now these days, indeed, almost everybody talks about some form of, is agile dead? What's the future of agile? What will we go on that kind of stuff? So the fact that you're saying,
Mm,
we see that sometimes it's a little bit struggling. I see that indeed with a lot of people. A lot of people are thinking like, where are we going? We see advantages, we see things are working, and at the same time we see the struggles. And so I
mm.
think what you're sharing is that, yeah, that challenge. I think a lot of people have that. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I was yesterday at this meetup. I think this is actually fun. There was like a meetup with other engineering managers. This time, this was mostly engineers, so I was really curious to go there and exchange with them. And they were like talking about all these things that we are actually talking a lot about in the Agile community. So, Conway Law, um, teams, different dysfunctions, etc. So it's already like these kind of ideas are already in the engineering space, and I believe this is what we want in the end. We want these things to penetrate other, these ideas of how to work well together, to penetrate other functions, let's say, like product, like engineering, like all kinds of HR, finance, etc. So we want those ideas to actually go forward. But now that we're seeing this happening all over, it's kind of like, okay, what's our role? What's our future in the end? We were the ones bringing this in, and now that there is a lot going, like there is a lot of acceptance of these ideas already. Now, what's next? Like, where are we going? What's our role now? And I see like a lot of issues because sometimes it's it's about change, like the things that we were talking about yesterday. It was like a fictitious example of a dysfunctional company, and what do you do in order to change. And a lot of what needs to happen is like has to do um, with people. And so people would need to actually enact a change in order to make the systems better, in order to make the design of those systems better, in order to um, in order to implement stuff faster, so you can actually um, propel your business, you can grow your business, etc. So it's always with the idea to grow, to have some sort of a better product that can serve better to your customers and clients, etc. So now the question is more or less, okay, do you do this change? And when you don't want to do this change, when you are a company who doesn't want to do this change, you have options to act as if you are doing a change, but you're not. And
Mhm.
that's funny. Like we have lots of things, lots of work in the space that's going into that direction, like trying to to serve that market where there is a lot of people who really don't want to do the hard change, but want to go like for something that's masking. So that's
Yeah,
kind of tricky. That's what got me thinking yesterday about this stuff. So much
I
about people.
yeah, I recognize that. And for me, well, of course, in yeah, I think it's always been in job interviews when I want to accept to help a company. I'm I think I'm much more severe these days when I talk with people like, okay, are you really looking for the change? And I will already in interviews be challenging people, will already be like, okay, but what you're saying here is not this. Um, I'm in the moment at this moment. I'm totally not looking for a job, and I still get lots of requests for Scrum Master, Agile Coach, or other or product owners or whatever kind of roles that are where the name is kind of a certain thing, but I have an idea, and then I see the job description. I say, well, sorry, but that's not what I would call a Scrum Master or an Agile Coach or whatever. And
Mm,
it depends a little bit on my mood, but I try at least every week to reply to 4 or 5 of these emails um, to the companies and saying, well, if you really want to have change, then this is not a good thing. And I
mm,
try to point out why I think they will either find the wrong people or yeah, will not find people or and that I've been already invited a couple of times to have discussions, and I make it very clear I'm not interested in the role, but I can help you find the right people. I can help you in doing that. And indeed, in some of the conversations, it's very clear that they're not looking for an agile coach. They're looking for a
mm,
project manager that is command and control, but then stop calling it a scrum master or coach or whatever. Call it a project manager. If you want to do the old way of working, that's fine. You don't have to do that. Your company also
mm.
doesn't have to survive. So okay, if you don't want to change, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not up to me to say how someone should run their own company, but
yeah.
please don't try to trick people into a role that is not that
Mm,
role. Um,
yes.
and yeah, so I will, and of course, if you're not looking for a job, or that's the feeling I have now that I'm not looking for a job, it's for me much easier to be very hard and very strict on some of these companies because I don't care, and I can only
Yeah.
help out the people in the company with a couple of emails a week.
Mm,
Um, and sometimes people react not at all, or sometimes they're very angry. How did I even dare to do that? It's like, look, I'm just
wow.
trying to help out. And yeah, but most of the time it's of course no reaction,
Yeah.
or a very nice reply like, okay, thank you, but no thank you. Anyway,
Mm.
this is indeed
I've
very
never
interesting.
gotten like a, you've never gotten like a positive reply in terms of, oh,
Oh yeah,
we
yeah,
will.
but I'm invited sometimes. Like I said, I'm invited to have conversations, and there's and sometimes people really do take these things, and I've even been asked, could you describe the role description and whatever. So yeah, definitely, but
Mm,
it's the minority of the kind of things, um,
yeah.
and there is and in many cases it's of course some kind of company in between, and then they say, yeah, but it's the other company. Well, I'll say, sorry, but if you're the company in between and you're looking for good candidates, it's your job as a supplier to actually help them create a better role description or whatever. If you don't
Mm,
want to do that, then you're just there to, I don't know, to yeah, in the very negative word, to be pimp for people, and not even caring about their satisfaction on the job, and also not caring about your customers. So yeah, I think then you're just there for getting money.
yeah.
Again, much easier if I'm not looking for a job, and there are others that really, and some because of that, it really helps. The kind of reaction I get helps me to decide if I, for example, will keep working with that. If I get a very
Mm,
angry reaction, like I block this company and right now they will never be able to give me a job because I don't care. I don't care to work with some of these things. And of course, I might regret it because I'm older than 50 now. So this might be the moment that it's becoming harder for me to find jobs, but I still prefer to do the jobs that I like to do. But
yeah.
like I said, I'm not looking at this particular moment. Anyway, I want
Mm,
to move to that next question because I already feel with the way you answered the previous questions that you're a very driven and a passionate person. Do you know where that passion, where that drive is coming from?
mm, yeah. Another one that's hard. So it's oh, like thinking about this, it's of course I think a lot of this comes down to like some selfish motivations, like I don't know, even curiosity is selfish, kind of like trying to figure out stuff and somehow enrich your own understanding of the world. is in some
Hmm.
degree also a little bit selfish. So a kind of a drive really for me. I think it's something along the lines of trying to understand what's going on in the world around me,
Hmm.
and how do I fit in this world? Um, what can I do in order to help myself, my family, the people around me? So what is it that I can basically contribute that it's actually also quite um, matching towards what I'm actually passionate about. So it's kind of, all right, how do I figure out better the world, and by figuring it out, also figuring out what is the things that I'm passionate about. I think what drives me the most is like this kind of curiosity about the world. Um, so yeah, so also in very early age, I was trying to figure out a lot what was going on around me. I had many interests. I was trying to read so many books and figure out like I don't know, from really hard books that I had no idea what was going on in those books. I was trying to read them as a kid, and I was like, I didn't understand anything, but I'm like super stubborn and trying, but it didn't work very well until I was older. So yeah, and what that has led me through is like I don't know. I used to like teach in university as well, so it led me to a path where when I look back, I do all kinds of things that are related to learning, mostly learning for adults, like how do we learn better? How do we actually tackle that problem of knowledge sharing in a way that's actually sticking on the other side? It's not just like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to tell someone what I know, and they're going to completely take it in and understand everything that I'm saying. And it turns out that wherever I was looking, I was seeing that it is something that people don't know exactly how to do. And over time, I became quite good at it. And it was something that I said, okay, this is actually something I can do. This is something that's helpful. And this had become like a driver for me, I think. This kind of my own will to understand the world kind of led me to okay, how do I make it easier for others to understand the world?
Hmm.
Basically, if I
By
know
by
something.
by asking the right questions, you kind of understand the world better. But the more you ask it, and I kind of hope here in a public or in transparent way, it also allows you to make other people think and understand the world. That's a little bit what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's also like how do you communicate effectively? Also complex ideas. How do you make them relatable? How do you um, how do you connect with what's on the other side? Like what's the other person actually understanding? Where they're at. How do you connect where you want to take them to where they're at? So if you want to teach, if you want to bring an interesting idea, you kind of have to know a lot about what's on the other side, who's sitting across you. And this has led me to like, okay, how do I explain, or how do I bring understanding on the other side, onto the other side, in a way that's effective, that's going to affect some sort of an action, and it's going to change someone's worldview. Like, how do you do that well?
Mhm.
So that's kind
Yeah.
of let me into interesting paths. Like um, during COVID, we kind of realized that now it's like super much harder to teach, to do any kind of knowledge sharing successfully during like a lockdown, when everybody is alone at home and the only connection is cameras and Zoom or MS Teams calls, etc. So it's a time where we were okay. How do you do teaching online? That's like super interesting, and that's where we discovered that it's super. there's a lot you can do actually in order to help this. It's still not going to be the same, but still there is tools you can use, and there's other things, and you need to really help others to navigate those things. Like, how do I deal with not having feedback from others because the cameras are off? How do you deal with that? And that's interesting to me, at least.
It's, that yeah, I already the way you explain your drive and the passion is just radiating off the screen. It's very it's really nice to hear that passion that drive do. And you kind of brings me automatically to that next question. What do you consider your biggest achievement? And while I was doing all these interviews, what I've seen is that from this is basically your moment to brag and to be really proud of yourself. Is it easy for you to brag and to be proud of yourself?
No. So
Mm.
that's not easy, no, because I don't know, it's how I grew up, I guess.
Hmm.
It's always like bragging is not a good thing, and you always can do better, and you can always like come, like, if you in the big I don't know, um in if you look at like history, what you're doing is like, okay, it's very, very small. It's like there's this whole internal,
Hmm.
the way that I've been brought up is like, okay, it's like you need to be humble. Like, what's really nice is to be humble, and it's like our culture, I think. And that's why like bragging is always something to be like
Not
perceived
to
as
do.
something bad. Yeah, not to do. And it's made really hard, like, yeah, thinking, talking about things that you do that are actually, that you think are good, right? That you
Hmm.
think you want to recommend to others, or you want to make somebody come and join you and do something together with you, and then whatever. um so
So
it's I
exactly the reason why it's interesting to now hear. Is there anything that you call yourself your biggest achievement?
mm. So what I was thinking about that was like, okay, every time that I was kind of able to fight off my ego in order to let others um, to let others grow. I think that's like the things that have made me personally proudest. It's not one single thing, that like moments like that. For example, like we build a little team at work where we facilitate a basically it's kind of like a mini conference every 10 weeks that we do at work for, like, I don't know, we've been doing this for like 4 years now. And I feel like this team has been like incredible, and me playing a role at making this team happen, it's like something I've been super proud with all over, because it's really so hard to build a team, and it's so easy to break things. It's really so easy to break the spirit. It's so easy to break the team, and the trust within it. So it's been like something that I've been like super happy to be part of, and proud of doing something together for so many years now. And really every time like being more and more energized about it. It's like really, really nice to feel.
It's
And
yeah, and it's already completely in line what you just said before. Because if I ask about how easy to be proud and to brag, then automatically you think about not something you've achieved, but you achieved together with your team at your company. So it feels very much in line with the values that you talk about. And I'm not saying it's wrong, eh? It's just it feels very much in line with how you talk about yourself and how that is important. And yeah,
mm,
that's fantastic to see that yeah, for you that's
it's like some sort of an achievement that I achieved, but not so much for myself, but like in spite of myself. If that makes any sense.
yeah, it might make sense. Yeah, that it's yeah, it's but it's I think it's nice because it's, well, I think whatever, if we're working on a team, it's always, yeah, I think even the people that achieve something alone, there is almost always a team behind, even if it
Mm,
means that you have a significant other or a partner that allows you to take the time to do that. Because yeah, people that go that do Olympic sports and then are the top runner or the top whatever, there is a team behind them. That is, there is a coach, a nutrition, there is the people around them, the friends, there's the family that support you in a way, and that
mm,
accept that you're not going to parties or whatever because you want to work on whatever you want to work on. And so it's always an achievement with many different kind of things. And it's extra nice that you radiate that and that you show that. And
mm.
it's different than going to the Olympics, but let's face it, there's very limited number of people that, that do that. Uh,
Yes. No, it's so good to highlight that whatever we do, we always have like a supporting network
mhm.
that's part of that. So you're never alone basically in whatever you're doing. It's pretty beautiful.
Exactly. Sorry, I have my voice.
You okay?
Should be okay. Should be okay. Yeah.
Are you
But
drinking tea?
I'm drinking tea. Yes, I'm drinking tea just to
Good.
make sure that yeah. Um, but I really like that the way that you put it with the team effort and everything. Let's move to that next question. Do you have a personal agility tip that you want to share?
Hmm. That was also super tricky for me because I'm rather a chaotic person, which is weird in our space, I think. If people know me, they know that I really hate big, elaborate organizations and whatnot. I
Mhm,
really try not to do that too much. Um, but I thought back to something that I've been doing for a while now and probably have forgotten about it. What I try to do, it's like I don't do it every day. It's like I try to do it maybe every other day. But what I do is like in the morning, I try to figure out, okay, what do I want to achieve today? Like, what's the most important thing I want to
mhm,
get done? And then there is like a bunch of other things that I do as well. But doing that in the morning helps me to say in later then, okay, if I have not achieved all that's on my to-do list, but I've achieved the
mhm,
one thing that I wanted to do, then I'm still fine. It's everything is still like, okay, I've achieved the most important thing. It's like it's kind of like
mhm,
this spring goal idea where it's just for one day. You have one goal per day, and that's makes things easier, achievable, and you feel better after it. And you notice over time, you notice when you don't know what to choose. It's like, oh, I've been doing too many things at once. I think that was like
mhm,
something that I didn't anticipate that it would help me, but it's kind of like how I notice that I'm doing too much because I don't know, for me at least, I'm not noticing I'm doing too much usually until like I'm like buried. This
mhm.
kind of helped me a little bit with that and helped me like say, hey, I need to do something because soon enough, I'm gonna see that I'm drowning in a sea of multitasking. And that has
Yeah.
been there's actually a good tip is Chrome has a extension that's called Momentum. It's free, you can use it. There's like all kinds of productivity little tweaks that it uses, but one of the biggest things about it is that it has like central question. It greets you with a nice picture and lets you put in what's your main focus for the day, really big on the screen. Every time you open up a new tab, you see it. So that's kind of a nice extension that I've been using for, I don't know, 7, 8 years now.
Yeah, I can. Well, I wanted to go back a little bit on what you said. It might be strange in our industry, but I actually see that many people in the agile space might be originally rather chaotic, and actually agile helps them in a way with that, putting that chaos in something that is workable. And it could be all, and I think many people, especially in the creative space, we have, because a lot of our work is very creative, so I think it's very logical that we have people who are having a creative mind, which is in many cases very chaotic mind, and then something like agile, it could be Scrum, Kanban, it could be all kind of ways, could be all kind of, I don't know, um,
Mm,
time management techniques that would help us, like, okay, how do I make the best out of that? And like what you say, okay, I
mhm.
want to have that one goal of the day, the doing something. um, I talked to Laurie Williams, I think, yesterday, and she said something very similar. Like, okay, I want to have, to have a focus in the morning, have a couple of things.
Mhm.
She said it completely different, but it reminds me a lot.
That's
What you said about one thing, it reminds me even more to something I heard Arnold Schwarzenegger say, that he says is, I have one thing that I want to do in per day, just one thing, and that helped him to become governor and everything, because he says, like,
okay.
there's a lot of, and so he doesn't care that much about the agendas and whatever, but he tries to
Mm.
have one thing per day that he wants to achieve. And
Yeah.
yeah, what I've learned about lots of people trying to do that is that when they don't achieve, in many cases it's because that goal is too big and they need to become better at slicing. Is that something you recognize as well?
Yes, yes, of course. It's for me right now it's not super hard because a lot of what I'm usually setting up myself is connected to some sort of a event during the day anyhow, or during the next day. So it's
Mm.
seldom that I cannot slice it because I do have a deadline. Like it's how my work kind of um how my work works. So it's a lot of it is because the system is okay for that. But sometimes when you need to prepare something bigger, I feel like it is kind of like that. You're not able to set up. And I think about this topic, it's kind of related. I had a conversation with a colleague the other day. We are preparing to get a workshop, right? And it's going to be this multiple session workshop where we now had like a short intro, and now we're going into preparing the first session. And it's actually like on team topologies. Funny fun fact, like, but it's still something where you have a book, and it's still like, okay, how do you digest the material in a way that is going to serve like a relatively diverse public audience, which is from experienced people to like not so experienced people with the topic. And I was trying to explain to him like the creative process that I have about this, because he was like on the other spectrum. Like he was like very orderly and trying to like always work towards an objective and structure, etc. And like, okay, I'm not that different from you. Like I do have a slightly, it looks very chaotic to you, but I'm not that different. So I do work with an objective, but I treat it as a preliminary objective. So I have like, okay, let's try to teach this thing. And now I start to think, okay, what are good ways to do that? And then I start to like to go
Mhm.
into divergent mode, where I have like brainstorming and different ideas. And it is usually, in my experience, leads me to a completely different objective. So it's most of the times I figure out that there is a better way to actually do the teaching than to actually reach that objective. That the original objective is different, should be a different one. And that's like why it was so hard to communicate, because he wanted to have those objectives and work down towards the objectives, and that's it. And my process is different. I work like, but it's still like
Mhm.
interesting because it still has structure in the end.
Yeah,
It's fun.
I really like that, because it's, well, that's one of the famous words that is said, like, the planning is important, but the plan itself is not. And like, if along the way you throw away the plan, but the fact that you
Mhm.
thought about it, the fact that you have some goal and that you did something, is really what's helpful. And especially in the creative world, or if we're in if we look at I don't want to go completely in the Kneffen model or other kind of things, but in a lot of what we do, it's very unpredictable on both the outcome and even more on how to achieve some of that, because we really literally don't know what we want or customers want, and let alone that we know how to get it. So yeah, I definitely recognize that. And like you say, it doesn't mean that you don't care about objectives, but it does mean that you're not going to cling on to the objectives and keep pushing it, because if at some point it becomes clear that the objective is the wrong
Mm,
one, why stick to that? That doesn't
yeah.
help, of course. I really like that as a personal tip. I think that's a lot there that makes sense. I want to move to that next question. And you already talked briefly about remote working and some of that stuff, what happened into COVID. What have you learned about? Well, first of all, maybe before that, did you do any remote working before COVID?
Yes, yes, not much. So we had
Hmm.
some sort of a home office policy where we had like, I don't know, 5 days a month or something like that, where we could work from home. And it was already something we've been doing, but I think I didn't do that much because the tooling back then was really not that great. So, for example, the audio devices that we had in the office were really poor, and I didn't want to
Mm,
be in a meeting where nobody's gonna hear me. I'm not gonna hear anybody. So I avoided going back, like working from home basically as much as I could. But then COVID happened and we were all behind our laptops and devices, and we used headphones, so the audio devices were much better. So yeah.
yeah, it's indeed one of the things that I hear a lot is that it makes sense to invest in good equipment, both the microphones, the headphones, and of course, many of the headphones now have seriously microphones inside. But even
Mhm.
then, it might make sense. I have an external microphone that is set there. It makes sense to use these kind of tools instead of just the microphones that are on my headphones, because the quality is better at many levels. And the problem is, the better my headphones are, the worse I have it when people have really bad microphones, because then it gets me headache. Luckily, I think today that's kind of okay. But in the
Okay.
beginning of COVID in 2020, I mean, it was horrible because I had so many colleagues who had like not
Mhm.
invested in decent cameras, were using very cheap headphones. They were, for them, it's like, yeah, but I'm okay with bad quality. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you might be okay, but because of that, I have really bad quality in my ears, and I'm not okay with that. And that's yeah.
Yeah. This reminds me of this general rule that you have, like for videos, for example. Uh, if the audio quality of a video is bad, people just don't listen. They just click away. It's the video quality could be fine, could be shitty, but if the audio is bad, then people will not listen. That's like
Mhm.
super super important fun fact.
Yeah, I recognize that, and it's also something that well, I try to watch out when indeed before we do the conversations that I hear if people audio is actually good. It's sometimes hard because it might be in the middle of a conversation, or even yeah, that if network is not good, and that's one of the hard parts for me about doing recording remotely, because it has a lot of impact on bandwidth and on all kind of other things, but I fully understand that. So is there anything you wanted to add about that remote work? Did you learn anything apart from cameras and equipment?
Mm. Oh yeah, so oof, I have like a love-hate relationship with remote.
Mm,
I work a lot remote, and it fits my schedules better. It fits my life better. But on the other hand, I recognize like the downsides of it quite a lot. It's like I need to go to work every at least once a week to feel good, to feel fine and connected with the rest of the people. I feel like I want to work much more in person. So this is something I'd like to change in the future, to like come more often in the office, connect more with people, work from the same location basically instead of over remote. I noticed that it's a different space. So remote works just differently. When we were back in the office, so I think back a lot to that time back then, and I just been talking to a colleague about this. When we were back in the office, there was all these little conversations happening. Now you need to schedule meetings. So now our meetings and calendars are quite full. Back then it wasn't like that. It was different. You had like 2 meetings, 3 meetings a day tops. Now, for me, normal days are like 10 meetings, or let's say not 10 but 7 in average, and that's like exhausting. And before that, it wasn't like the communication wasn't that different. You would still have those conversations, but they were just fluidly happening on the floor, happening between desks, etc. And only when there's like a need to go into a meeting room, only then you go and schedule a real meeting. The rest was kind of like ad hoc, happening in breaks in the kitchen, on the whiteboard. Like, one of the other things is like we were doing dailies on a whiteboard. We didn't do dailies instead of in front of a Jira board, at least for some time. And we had this was nice. Like, now we only have Jira, and we're so damn focused on those tasks on the board that there is no space for us to write notes. I realized that, like, having a conversation with someone like a couple of weeks ago, like before that we had not just the tasks, but we also had white space which we could fill with ideas, and now we don't have it. And except for we purposefully build it, but usually what we do right now is only using a Jira board, and might actually not be the right thing to
Hmm.
facilitate the communication that needs to happen, to change a plan, or to I don't know, if the purpose of a daily is to, okay, let's adapt, let's change the goal, let's, if need be, then we need some space to quickly be creative. I don't know.
I really
And
like
that's
that. It's yeah, it makes sense indeed to well, yeah, like you say, if you can work physically on a board, and then again, we live in a world that yeah, I'm working with people who are mostly in Ukraine. I cannot even visit them at this point in during the war, so that that is very limited. People are yeah, we have other people who are in basically all parts of the world. So yeah, there it's a lot harder to physically see them. So yeah, I'm glad that we do have a lot of these tools helping out, but I do recognize that bringing people together, so for the people who are not in Ukraine, we try to bring them together from time to time because physically working together has a lot of advantages. That's for
Mm,
sure.
yeah. Maybe a positive thing about remote that I noticed is that it kind of leveled the field. So if you had before very collocated people and then like a couple that were remote, they were kind of outsiders. And since COVID, it's no longer that severe, I think. It's like
You're correct. Yeah,
we
yeah.
all were in the same boat, and we developed this kind of empathy. If somebody is, if even now, like if now you have one person that's remote, everybody in the team has empathy towards that person and knows what they're going through being remote. I think that's like a positive thing we can take away from this whole shift towards remote that we had to live through, that we develop this sort of empathy for people that are working in different environments than we are and cannot connect physically so often.
Yeah, I recognize that. That's definitely definitely true. That COVID made a huge impact on that. Let's move to that next question. What is a book that you want to talk about? And I think yeah, you had one book that you wanted to talk about. What's the book that you had in mind?
Yeah, I have it here. It's a funny book, so I didn't want to bring in any like agile books because there's so many and so good ones.
Hmm.
But there's one that's maybe for like people that like language and are nerds like me. So this one is called Etymologicon, and it's by Mark Forsyth. So I don't know if you can see that one.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
can
really
see
good
it,
book.
and I can bring it also. I have a different picture that I found. So it's almost the opposite of colors. But yeah, it's why should people read that book?
So I found it somehow by chance, by accident. I read another book from him that was on like rhetoric. whatever, like there's like this, I don't know, I read it like a long time ago, but then I was browsing and I got this one recommended, and I thought, okay, maybe it's good, and I really really enjoyed it. It's like bringing you into, it's divided by chapters, and you can see here there's like a chapter to dedicated to insulting foods. So there is a lot of weird expressions in English, which are which you're wondering, where does it come from? Like, why is it like that? For example, one really cool one is like, why is the bird turkey called after a country, Turkey? It's like, if you ever wondered why is the name Turkey simultaneously a name of a bird and a name of a country, this book gives you an answer, and it's brought into
Okay,
such
that
a fun way that it's really super engaging. So it's like etymology is like super super boring. Um, like, where does the word come from? Brought into a very nice, engaging book that you cannot stop reading because it's full of interesting and fun stories, like very anecdotal, very very fun, and it shows you like how the culture of language developed and how it makes so much sense about it. It's like our culture, language is part of our cultures, and it is kind of this little snapshot of the past, and that's remained here with us. A lot of these words that we are using today were um, are a legacy of like hundreds of years, and what happened hundreds of years influenced how the language developed and is now what we're using, and we don't know it. And it's super fun to engage and read that book. I really love that.
I really thank you for bringing that up because indeed the goal it was I on purposely ask about a certain book and not about a business book or an agile book or whatever. And it's always fun to have people bringing in another type of book inside because that's definitely not a book that have read or that I know. So it yeah it brings really other kind of ways of looking at stuff. So thanks for doing that.
Sure.
That's really nice, and I hope indeed that people will buy the book and look into that and learn something from languages. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, especially if you're not a native speaking, learning some things about the language is really good with books like that because I keep being surprised about learning about languages, about similarities, differences, and where are words coming from, and it's super interesting. Thanks for
Mm-hmm.
sharing.
Sure.
I want to move to that next question that I already talked a little bit about it. That what question do you think I should also ask you, and what's the answer?
Wait a second. So this one, I don't know exactly, but probably something about AI, because everybody's talking
Mm,
about AI. I
mhm,
don't know really. So I was like also wondering what kind of question, and maybe what's next, maybe what's I don't know, too much about the future. I think and so many worries about the future. And I've been like to a event where ThoughtWorks presents. I had no idea that they do this, but apparently ThoughtWorks is bringing out a tech radar every 3 months, every quarter, and this time their tech radar was like, I don't know, 80% AI tools. It's like, wow, it kind of freaked me out a little bit, and also like, wow, it's like a huge bubble probably, but it seems that it's everywhere and everybody's talking about it.
mhm,
So I guess this is a topic that's probably interesting, and I don't know how much it's going to affect our space. So far, I've been finding it really interesting to explore what is there that can help you work. For example, what kind of tools are there that can help you do your work better, easier. There is a lot going on right now in education. There is a lot going on in of course in productivity for developers. That's a space I have not even started to really explore, but I've heard other people talking about it, and it seems that they are really finding useful tools out there like Copilot and others. similar. So it's really a fun topic, I think, to delve into.
Well, it definitely will have an impact on our world, and yeah, I think it makes sense to explore it a little bit and to understand the challenges with it, because it basically radiates what it has learned. So okay, we have to be careful,
Yeah.
and it doesn't tell us the sources. So yeah, my daughter had to make they had to use it for school, ChatGPT, and it was interesting because she's 16, and she had for school she got an assignment. She had read a book, and she had to create a biography for the book using ChatGPT. So finding out what's the right question to talk to get a biography of the author, with
Mm-hmm.
some couple things. And then I don't know, they had a full assignment with many questions. How do you know that this is correct? Where is that come? And then check if all the data is correct. You don't have the where the sources. So do double check yourself from sources if that's correct. To really learn about that tool. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, some of the errors were very obvious, because the main character from the book was called differently in ChatGPT than in the book. Yeah, that's, if you have read the book, that's rather clear that is wrong.
Yeah.
But some other things were rather very subtle. And so then learning to change your question to make sure that you get a better profile and lots of other things. And yeah, it was really interesting assignment.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed with the school. Like, okay, how do you teach young children or young 16-year-olds to really use the tools in a way that you can understand that they're not fully trustworthy, and at the same time, how do you change your language to get a better answer? Still need to verify everything, but still, that was a very fun thing. And I think, yeah, we should do that much more. I remember in my time, even the calculator was, although we knew that the answers was exactly correct, we were not even allowed to use it. We had to
Mm-hmm.
use our brains. And now it's like, okay, the answers are not correct, but learn at least to use it, learn to understand it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, It's so wonderful to see like that this adaptation, so to say, is happening so quickly in education, because I feel like education is a hard space to evolve.
I think it's one
It's
example from one teacher, so I'm not sure the full education is better, because I do think there is other teachers who totally don't understand it. But yeah,
mm,
it's needed, and indeed, children need to learn to use that. I know others, yeah, and I know students who use the tool to even ask ChatGPT. I'm learning about, for example, mathematics or physics. Give me an exercise about,
yeah.
I don't know, whatever, and then it gives it, and then you need to yeah, solve it, and then give me the answer so that I can verify. And so these
Mhm.
are kind of things that help out for learning about things.
Mhm.
But you
I
need,
was
again, you need, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, no, I was gonna attach that because I just saw like a startup presentation, like I don't know, some guy that was doing a startup on a similar thing. So what they're doing is they're letting users upload their own documents, like lecture documents or some sort of PDFs with contents on a certain topic. And what their tools can do is, among others, is generate exam questions that are kind of similar to the content that you upload. So
Mhm.
it's going in the same direction.
Yeah, and that's indeed learning. Then how does it work? And then of course you still need to verify and whatever. But it's helpful, because indeed, if I remember well, especially when my children are very young, I needed to come up with good questions to see if they have studied something, and I always found it horrible. And my daughter was really, yeah, she didn't like my questions. She was like, that's not what a teacher will ask, and blah blah blah. And so, yeah, and it takes time for me to do it. And this kind of way, children can actually come up. I don't need to do that anymore with my daughter at age 16, but yeah, if my children would have been younger, that would have been perfectly to use to kind of find ways to ask and to see, yeah, how things could help out. So that is, yeah, that's indeed a very nice way on what we want to learn and want to do more. Okay, I want to move to that next question because I know, or I think that you have a couple of people that you want to invite. So who do you think I should invite next? Who are the people that you thought about that I should invite
Hmm.
next?
So I did have three people in mind that I really like and admire. We worked together with actually with all of them on different things.
Mhm.
So who should I start? Let's start with Giovanna. So Giovanna Lizzi, she is a good friend of mine and a former colleague. So when I
Mhm.
started off
And
my
I
journey,
think that's her, right?
yes, that's her avatar.
Or
So you can find her on LinkedIn for sure. When I started off, she was a mentor. She helped me. She helped me with a lot of conversations. She showed me stuff around. So she's a very experienced agile coach. She's also
Mhm.
teaching in the university right now, and also like one of those people that you can always have a great conversation with, no matter what. So she's truly amazing and inspiration to me. Um,
And you
Another
met
person.
her at, did you met her at university or how should I?
No, we met at work.
Hmm.
So when I started, I think 2019. She was working with me with a different part of the company, but we exchanged for like the community of practice that we had, and we started like a working relationship that got into like a friendship later, and now we touch ground quite often and catch up and talk about all things agile, all things I don't know around us, etc. So we are um, close and want and like to exchange, and I really want to recommend talking to her. She's also a very fun person to be around.
Okay, thanks for bringing her up. And who would be the next person that you want to invite?
So another colleague, Grace Cuckoo. So she is
And that
also,
is Grace, if I'm correct.
yes, that's Grace. She is also a colleague of mine, and we have not worked together much, but very close over the last four-ish years.
Hmm.
And we've exchanged a lot. We've done workshops together, we've done sessions together, etc. And we kept in touch for a long time. So she is also very experienced agile coach, and also like she's been flexible with also being a product owner, etc. And she has lots of experiences. She's one of those people that is who is really good at, I believe, bringing a group together to advance forward together in a manner that's really taking care of having everybody being heard in this group. So it's she's really good at this, and I really admire her ability about that thing. Um, so yes, I think
And
that
that's
she's
not
also,
easy to make sure in a group that everybody is heard. That's making well
yes,
everybody is heard and preferable at equal level. Because yeah, we sometimes have people who have well, I don't know if it's because they're extroverted or have a bigger ego, but that we typically hear a lot more in conversations than others, and it's really is important to give everybody equal space. And the more we, or I would say, the better we are at that, the better the people that we typically don't hear a lot will be hearing more, and that will bring it much more inclusivity and diversity for opinions, I would say. So that's yeah, that sounds like a very important skill to have and a very good skill to have. And you had a third person you wanted to bring in. Who is that third person?
yes, Felipe Correa. So he is a
And that's
first.
Felipe.
Yeah, that's Felipe. So he and I met at the Europlop conference. This is a conference on patterns and pattern languages,
Hmm.
and um, we are now co-organizing this year's edition. And he's been like super
Okay.
invaluable to like helping me, guiding me through how to do stuff, etc. So we've grown like a really small duo that we worked on this big project together, and it's been really really a great time for me to do this together with him. He's been like such a supportive person, and we've talked a lot, and he is one of those people who is really really good at keeping things at taking care of people, taking care
Mm,
of people and communicating in a way that's really, I mean, I've been always blown away by um we've been what we've been doing all the time is trying to communicate with the community, and his style and way of communication is always being like blowing me away because he's able to articulate things really so well, um, and take a lot of things into account that I really really admire. And I think like this is somebody to talk to, and yeah, that's why I brought him forward.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that. And I really like how you, well, give the time to explain why you like people, why, how you met people. So that gives us already a feeling like, okay, this is why. It gives me at least the desire to talk to these people. And yeah, I've been in this week for multiple reasons. I've been trying to radiate much more to be thankful to people that have helped me in the past, and a way to talking for you to talk with about these people. For me, that's a similar kind of feeling that, okay, we share what we why, and that's, in many cases we don't do that enough. I don't know how it's for you, but I've noticed for myself, I have really high thoughts about some people, and yeah, I should really get much more into the habit of telling them. And I
Mm,
think that's a nice way to do that kind of thing. So thank you very much for doing that. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's really nice format that you're actually asking others to bring others forward. It's kind of very conducive. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's very much helping to bring that forward, to bring that up. Actually,
And
it's really
yeah,
cool.
and yeah, I really love the format in that way, because, and I also have to be completely honest, it's very lazy of me, because that way other people invite people, and at the same time I learn about people that I've never learned about. Because if I would only select people, like I said in the introduction to you before we started, I have more than 600 people on my list right now. Well, I think only half of them did I knew before, and of that half, maybe I've already met like 200 of them, but another 100 I might know the name but I've never met. And now there's like
Mm,
600 people that I can talk to. And okay, I, like I said, I will probably never talk to these 600, but I think it's about the same of the 100, almost 130 people that have been published. I think it's about the same. Half of them I knew before, half of them I
mm,
never knew, and again, like one third or something like that, that I've actually met before. And so for me, it's really a nice way. And I notice how much joy it brings to people when they've been invited to other people by other people. And yeah,
yes.
that's it's a really nice way of doing that. So thank you
Yeah.
very much for your time. It's been, for me, like I said, it brings all that energy, and it's really a nice way for me to end up my week, and yeah, to really end up with a conversation like that. So thank you very much for your time,
Thank you.
because it's, yeah, it's been that nice as I was hoping it would be.
Thank you. Thank you so much also for your time. And I hope your weekend is really, really nice and relaxing. Hope good weather for especially tomorrow's like the International Children's Day. So hopefully there is good weather as well.
I hope it as well. But there is, my mother is giving a party for her 80th birthday, so definitely I hope there will be good weather. So
Nice.
yeah, that's that. Yeah, I hope it will be nice. So yeah, indeed, it's for the students at home, because I have three children that actually have to study for exams. The good weather is a little bit less nice, so I they prefer
Mm.
that it stays raining. So that's a different. And but
All
no,
right.
we'll see about that. Okay, well, thank you anyway. Thank you, and have a good
Thank
weekend as
you.
well.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.